Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here with Orlando, Florida's very own Hungover. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you for having me. My name is Mark. I sing in Hungover. I play a little guitar sometimes, and I dance a lot. And the other members are Sean and Gabe. They are not here right now, unfortunately, but yeah, just me.
Yeah. We watched a few. Well, I watched a few of your music videos before this, and like I normally sometimes we get bands where I'm just like, this is not the sound for me, but I appreciate like the people in the band. But this time I'm like, no, I actually really like the music. This is like,
hell yeah,
this is exactly my style. I don't know if you've heard like comparisons to like Coheed or anything like that before, but that to me was like the first thing that struck out to me.
That's always been so crazy because we get compared to Coheed every so often, and that's one of our drummer's favorite bands. I didn't listen to Coheed until like 5 years ago. Yeah. It's like a relatively new thing for me. And I've been curious about like going back and trying to figure out like what influenced Coheed to see if we have like similar vibes, because it's always in relation to my voice. And like, I don't think sonically we sound the same. Like, he has a much higher register than me, but like the actual notes that we're singing and like the way the songs are structured. And I think there's like definitely like a core element to Coheed. And I come from a post-hardcore background, so like I don't know if that's where it comes from or what, but we always get that comparison, and I'm like, that's a real head scratcher, because like when people are like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, I'm like, totally makes sense. I've been ripping them off since I was 12.
I will say it took me I was listening to so Tori was nice enough to send us a link to the preview of the album, and I was listening to it, and I sat like 5 songs in. I'm like, your voice sounds so familiar to like another band that I don't listen to as frequently, but I know I've heard them before. And like I got to like the end of the album, I said, oh, this reminds like your vocals reminds me of Young the Giant, which is very left field. But I was like sitting there and I was like, what band is this? I know what band this is. Like I've heard their songs.
I freaking love Young the Giant. When I first started dating my now partner, we went to go see Young the Giant, and it's like the greatest show that I've ever been to, and ever since then it's been like our band. And like I've been like trying to sneak bits of like indie and like that kind of alternative into Hungover for forever. So the fact that you listened to the new record all the way through and you got it, like that's like that rocks. I freaking love Young the Giant.
Let's shout out the record right now. The new record is called When It Touches the Heart, Everything Resolves, coming out February 16th via Smart Punk Records. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the record and what to expect with it, and probably more Young the Giant on it? Yeah, all the Young the Giant on it.
So the record has been a long time coming. We kind of went on a hiatus for about probably like 4 years on it. It was a weird like intermittent thing. We would play shows, we would kind of record music sometimes, then we would kind of go back into hiding. But it's just life got weird, everything got really weird, and we slowly accidentally wrote a record. We kind of came up with a bunch of songs and then kind of cut them down to 11, and then we kind of realized we had a label obligation, and then kind of realized that like we still loved playing music together, and started playing shows and then playing those songs live, and kind of like breathed life into them. And all of a sudden we're active and putting out music again. And it's interesting because I mentioned to you guys when we were kind of talking before we started recording, it really does feel like it's like a coming of age record. And I wrote this record at a time where I was growing up and realizing myself as an adult and becoming almost like the person that I am going to be for the rest of my life is what it feels like. I could be totally wrong. Everything could change tomorrow, but that's where I'm at right now. But I wrote a lot of these lyrics anywhere between 3 to 5 years ago. So now we're putting this record out, and it's trying to find the right words for it. It's really interesting to hear people talk about it and to be talking about it and to be like finally putting it out and to hear how people are reacting to these singles and all that stuff, because I can now process who I was back then and process the lyrics and what I felt and how I still feel and what's similar and what's different. And I don't know, like it's cool. I'm excited. Like, sorry, that was a little tangential, but
no, it's good.
It all works out.
It's really just like me opening up to whoever wants to listen, letting them know like this is kind of who I am right now, and these are the things that I've discovered about myself, and this is who I want to be, and this is who I used to be, and I am taking this moment to take an inventory of who I am as a person, and what needs to change, what needs to stay, and just the fellas put a real rockin' soundtrack behind it, you know. It's
Yes.
it's crying while dancing, you know.
I gotta
That's how I feel
say,
about
it does feel, and maybe you're kind of like sparking something in me where I'm like, we obviously had COVID where everything stopped and everybody was like indoors and really just figuring out that internal side. And then COVID, quote unquote, ended. Just so people on the audio version know, I'm not saying COVID ended. I'm saying for all intents and purposes, we are back out in the world.
The pandemic technically ended.
The pandemic ended. COVID just
still there,
just crushing it.
We're no longer in a state of international emergency.
Yes. I'm in a state of internal emergency. But then everybody got to go back out. We had events again. We had fests. We had concerts. We had all this stuff that people got back out into the world. And now that it's kind of been like a couple years of that, like 2024 seems like it's a time when people are kind of going into the year saying like, you know, I'm figuring myself out and I'm trying new things, and I'm not necessarily going to just like stick to the same old thing that I've done before. I'm going to try this stuff and go into the new year. We're recording this right at the beginning of the new year. So like, this is the time when everyone's like, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm not going to do the same thing I've been doing forever. And it feels like maybe like we're separated enough from that time that we were all isolated, that now going into this time, we're like time for reflection. Now that we've had the outdoor time, now that we've touched enough grass for the last couple of years, we can like do some self-reflection and introspection.
I have noticed a lot of the whole, like, not like necessarily like new year, new me type posts, but like, this is what I'm changing this year. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm going to hold myself accountable to. Like, I'm sure you guys have seen the ins and outs posts.
Yes.
I think that's awesome. Like, you decide what's trending for you and you just roll with it. I kind of, I said this in another interview recently, and when I said it, I was like, this is exactly how I feel about the pandemic. Did you guys watch Dragonball Z?
Oh, yeah.
Brian's massive a big fan. Dragon Ball Z fan.
I do a really good Vegeta impression, but I only tell people that, and then I never do the impression.
Oh, my goodness. So there was an episode or a series of episodes, I forget what it was, where Gohan and Goku go into this chamber, where inside the chamber it's a year, but on the outside of the chamber, it's a day. Mm-hmm. And they do this so that I forget. I think it was Cell.
That was training for Cell. It was training Gohan to be Super Saiyan level 2.
Exactly,
because Goku had already achieved it, and
that's the pandemic.
Yeah,
if you worked on yourself,
the hyperbolic time chamber.
it kind of feels like everybody's coming out of their like hyperbolic time chamber. And it's interesting to be in a place where everyone has to be with themselves and everybody has to take time and not have freedom, because you can't really go outdoors or do the things that you would normally do, but you have time to take up crocheting or to learn about the Industrial Revolution or learn Shrek line by line, front to back, or whatever it is that you want to do.
Figure out your Vegeta impression.
Yeah, and figure out your Vegeta impression, you know, like, and I think that really is, in a roundabout way, like the essence of the record. We took a lot of time to figure out if we wanted to be a band anymore, if we wanted to write new music, if we just wanted to play shows, how much new music we wanted to write. We lost members during the pandemic. People moved away. It's just so, it's like we made it a 4-year time capsule almost, and now we're putting it out with like a new lens, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to your first album that you did put out, Wilt, it's much more pop punk compared to this upcoming album as well. And I'm wondering what that catalyst was for you to kind of transition into there, because we can tell with some of the other singles you would put out along the way that it was blowing through and going to get there eventually. But what were the inspirations that kind of also helped with you getting to that point with this new sound?
So what was interesting about Wilt is that I didn't write it for my voice. Hungover as a band has existed for over a decade. And when I first joined the band, I was just playing guitar and I was not singing. I had always written songs with the idea of songwriting, and I would sing the melody, but I never anticipated that I would be the one doing the performance. So we were cooking, we were writing some stuff, and it was all intended for this other vocalist. This vocalist ends up leaving, and the guys decide that I sing the best, so I'm going to sing for whatever shows we have lined up. And I go, this is a terrible idea. I've never really sang like that before. I don't know that I'm comfortable. And they're like, it's just a few shows. It's just a few shows. Just a few shows turns into just a short tour. Just a short tour turns into just a single. Just a single turns into an EP. Just an EP turns into we're signing a record deal. Just signing a record deal turns into we're on tour for 100+ days a year.
You're like, damn, how we get here?
Yeah, and I'm like, I just want to freaking play bass, man. I don't even want to play guitar. Like, what's going on? And it kind of kept going and going. And the songs on Wilt are written from my perspective. They're written about things that happened to me, and they're written about the way that I felt about those things. But I never thought that I would sing them myself. And the band was just much more pop punky back then. It was much more emo, alternative, whatever you want to call it. It just lived in that vein. It was much more posy. And I think there's definitely elements of that on the new record. But I think where my voice sits and the way that I like to songwrite and what I figured out for myself is that I like more dark pop. I like more R&B. I like more funk. I like more indie. I have a more eclectic taste. Sean listens to everything from Oceano to Queen to like it's all over the place. Gabe is the same. Gabe loves electronic music. He loves Sleep Token. He loves Coheed and Cambria. It's just so all over the place that we kind of came to this realization that we cannot really have an identity crisis as a band to where like it doesn't make sense, like all the different sounds on the record. However, we can allow our influences to creep in so that we can be the most authentic version of ourselves. And I think it just kind of melted together in this really interesting pot. Like, yes, there's still like tons of pop punk elements in there. For example, Reunion is a song that's very, very pop punk, and it has like the posy beats. It might be more pop punk than anything else that's on Wilt, but to where you heard the whole record, I don't think there's a guitar on Slow Motion until the first like a real heavy guitar until the chorus, like a minute in. So we're definitely experimenting with more sounds and just playing with the idea of like what songwriting is to us, what we could do in the standard like band format, like 2 guitars, bass, drums, vocals, to make things different and to stand out and to just put our own sonic stamp on it and say like, this is what Hungover is and this is what Hungover feels like and sounds like.
There's really no, I think there's no need anymore to like really let your influence, like pick a lane and stay in it. It's much more like, yo, I like all this stuff and I want to drum like this on this, or I want to sing like this on this. It all fits together. And there is a fan who's going to go, this riffs, because like you have so many different things that go on throughout this record that I don't have to be like, oh, it's just another pop punk song. Like there's some pop punk bands that I like, never get into because of that. It's like, it's too much pop punk. I want other stuff in there.
you're seeing it more and more in the genre too. For example, like Magnolia Park, Orlando folks.
Yep.
Even like not even just sonically, like they're calling their albums mixtapes.
Yeah.
And they're putting out heavier songs, and then they're putting out pop punk anthems, and they're doing things that just feel like authentic to them, and it seems to be working for them. And you look at like the new Broadside record, like there's a lot of super poppy elements on that. Ollie has a swagger vocally that like is akin to like R&B hip hop, like with delivery and things like that. You're just seeing more and more the people who are really steering the genre and taking it to the next place are doing things that are different. And while we will all love coming out swinging from a South Philly basement and and like all that stuff, it's changing. And I think the idea in pop punk and pop rock and alternative is less to emulate now and more to just see what we can throw at the wall and see what sticks. And I love that. I love when people are trying new things. I love when people are getting weird. I love when people are like, I wonder if I can make this unique puzzle piece fit into this one space to make something that is my own. It's awesome.
Yeah.
What is an artist or a band you would want to see Hungover collaborate with, or maybe do like a remix on one of your singles even?
So a remix would be, it'd be so cool to have like the Midnight do something. Like in that like 80s synthy universe. I think that'd be cool, like as far as like a remix or whatever. Collaborations. Whenever I think about collaborators, I always think about like songwriting and structure and stuff like that. And I just think that the band Camino is like the perfect band. Like there's never been a more perfect band as far as songwriting and how they make everything so catchy and infectious, and how like the textures are so vastly different across their records, but everything feels like it is authentically themselves. And you can almost hear from just a guitar chord, like, oh, like that's a band Camino chord. Yeah. I kind of know. I already am informed on how the song is going to start based on how they've introduced it and the motifs in this. And they just have like such a wonderful signature that they put on all their stuff. And I would love to collaborate with them or someone like that.
On a songwriting side or like a producer side, like, is there any like producers that you would want to work with in that same way? Or like, I know now like a lot of people just record themselves. So like the idea of like going in the studio with a producer is like, I don't really need that because we're all songwriters. So would it be like, I want to be in a studio with the band Camino and write a song, or would it be like, I want to produce it. I want to be like there from beginning to end and like work with their producer or something like that.
Production is so interesting because, and even songwriting, because I'm such a stan for my friends. Like, I think that my friends are like some of the most wonderful and talented songwriters and producers and mixers and masterers that I've ever met. So like, I'm very, very comfortable going to Sean Dolich did our record. He produced and engineered When It Touches the Heart, Everything Resolves. And he's one of my best buddies in the whole world. I'm in another band with him, and I'm just like, dude, you're such a wonderful producer and all this stuff, or this, that, and the other thing. He's like, we're literally friends. Like, why are you talking to me about that?
You have to hype up the homies. That's why.
Yeah. So like, I love working with him, and I get so in love with the process of writing with certain people or getting produced by certain people that I'm like, I will never produce or write anything with anyone ever again because this relationship is so fruitful and wonderful. But then I'll hear like a Butch Walker track or a James Paul Wisner track, or Tate Mercer is one in Nashville that I would love to work with. The Better Off stuff is some of my most favorite recordings over the last few years. There's just, the list goes on and on and on. Like, there's John Goldman. It just keeps going and going and going. And I think that does come from a place where kind of touches on all the sonic influences on the new record. because we like everything, like I would kind of like to work with everyone. Like I like the idea of like Fall Out Boy doing Infinity on High, and they did some songs with Babyface, and they did some songs with this producer, and they did some songs with that producer, but then this person mixed the whole thing, and we kind of did end up in a place like that with Wither. That's the acronym for when it touches the heart, everything resolves. To where Sean Dolich produced it and engineered it, but then Zach Baker from Rain City Drive engineered drums while Sean produced behind him. It was mixed by Alan Reitman, who did our last record. He recently did some stuff with Adventurer. He's done a bunch of other stuff. And he did additional vocal production, and then it ended up getting mastered by Alan Douches, who's done Fall Out Boy, Mayday Parade, Real Friends, all this other stuff. And it kind of became a nice little sampling of like, oh, I like what you do over here, and I like what you do over here, and I like what you do over here, and I like what we do, and I think you can make it sound better, and we just trust you. We did end up with like a bunch of different mixes of the songs. That was mostly because like we were pulling from old demos, and we would bring in old parts. We probably re-recorded the record maybe like 4 times technically. Wow. Like when you go into like demoing and stuff like that, there's so many different iterations of this record. That like the mixing was probably a pain in the ass, you know, like because we were throwing so much different stuff at the project, but ultimately it really was just a product of, this is what we did, we really like it, we really like what you do, and we really respect what you do and your opinions, so we're just gonna let you do your thing. Maybe we'll tweak it a little bit, but we trust that this is the best for the project because you rock.
If you've re-recorded 4 times, I want to know what the thought process was when you were picking your singles that you wanted to release off of here. Was it the same thing?
The same time you recorded it, the same singles made it, or were you like,
or were they different? Or were you like that one?
These singles instead.
So what's interesting about the singles is one was a smart punk pick. Reunion was the first single we put out. I was so eager to put out Shake It Off. I thought that was going to be like the banger that everybody was going to enjoy. But Matt Burns at Smart Punk was like, no, this is the song we're going to put out first. The story behind it makes the most sense. We're getting back together. It's literally called Reunion. And he was right. But he was right. And then with the other 2 songs, I felt really strongly about Shake It Off, and then Out of Body, I personally think it's the best song I've ever written. And we're all kind of agreeing on the singles. We kind of played with Slow Emotion, but it was so vastly different from the other 2 that we didn't want it to be like jarring, you know, like we want, sonically it's structured in a way. I keep saying the word sonically, and it's starting to not sound like a word to me anymore.
It's music journalism. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's all
my
fair
God.
game.
It's structured in such a way to where the beginning of the record is more like rock, pop punk forward, and as you creep into the back of the record is where a lot more of those different influences start to be more prevalent, which is why I feel like you probably caught on to the Young the Giant influence a little bit later in the record, because I lean into it a little more heavy with those songs. But I kind of wanted it to be a little bit of a surprise, and I wanted you to like melt into the record and then kind of discover those new sounds as you like really dig into it. But the other side of that coin, as far as picking singles, is I'm a dad. I have 2 kids. They're 7 and 3, and they are my biggest critics in the whole world. My daughter, who is 3, when I sing in the car, I am a professional singer. I have been paid to sing. It may be in dive bars and in small clubs.
Counts.
But you're getting that bag. That it counts either way.
Yeah, I've been paid at least $1 to sing before, which makes me a professional singer. My daughter, while she does not have the words, I know exactly what she means, is 3. And when I sing in the car, she goes, "Dad, I don't like your sound." And I I love that but she's honest. Like like sometimes she just doesn't like the song, you know? And then I'll put on another song and she goes, "I like that sound."
All right.
And it is hysterical to me that she speaks like a label exec in the 80s. Like, I don't really like your sound, kid. But they'll be honest with me, and throughout the course of recording, like, I would show them the songs, and it got to the point where I think at the beginning of us doing the record, because we recorded it for so long and so many times over, they might have not realized it was me. But towards the end of it, like up until us getting these final masters, my son would go like, "Oh, is this a new one?" Like he kind of like knew like what my voice sounded like. So when it came time to pick singles, I was like, "Do you guys like this one? Do you think that if someone heard it for the first time, they would enjoy it?" And they were honest with me, which was cool. And that's how we landed on some of them also. And they get a nice little nod in the album liner notes. It's actually dedicated to them. If you open up the vinyl and you look in the bottom right hand corner, they get a little shout out. And they got to pick the singles kind of. Matt first picked the first one. But they got to help pick the other two. They affirmed it for us.
I feel like I could just imagine them like in the recording studio with you in the moment like you mess up or like they don't like something, they just run in and are like, nope, like the way little kids do and are like, nope, stop it. This is done.
Okay, so he's gonna hate me for saying this because this is like very much a me and him dynamic thing. But Sean, I spent a lot of time with Sean Dolich. There's a guy in our band named Sean Connors. But Sean Dolich is who did the record, and he filled in on bass for us for a little bit over the last couple of years. And like I said, I'm in another band with him now. So I've spent a lot of time in studio with him over the last 4 years or so. And I credit him to making me a better singer because of his coaching and just the way that he approached songwriting and singing and tracking and all that stuff. But he did this thing that would destroy me internally every single time. Where we would record in one room. There's like a little sound booth type thing, but it's not closed off. So you can see him while you're recording, and his back is fully to you. So he does this. He's turned around, and then can you guys still hear me while I'm turned around?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so he's turned around. He's not saying anything, and I would mess up a part, and he would just go, yeah, dude. Like he would just shake his head.
What did he think he was on The Voice?
Yeah, he would go embarrassing. I mean, he has to be looking at the screen to like do the production or whatever. And he was definitely like making a jab at me, and it was a 1-word response, but it was very like, I know you can do better than that. So it was just so interesting, like to get that from him, because it's like, I know exactly what you mean. But do you have to say it like, and it hurt? You know? If he hears that, he'll get a chuckle out of it. But I never made that connection, but it did have the voice energy. He would never turn around if I messed up.
I've recorded before in the studio, and I think producers just like, once they figured out how you are, they're just like, I know how to squeeze that good performance out of you, but they have to squeeze rather than just like kind of coaxing it out of you. They have to. They're like, I'll figure it out.
It's like real tough love here.
Yeah, I'll cut to the core.
He's a squeezer for sure.
Yeah.
He squeezes.
You mentioned the single "Shake It Off," which came out last month. Can I ask you a question about the music video? I know we're asking questions. This is just what we do. I liked it because it was so simple, and it was like, it looked like you just like kind of found a space that you could film for the day and just like shot some shots. And I'm like, this is like perfect to me. I love this. Was that how it was actually made?
So that's interesting. I actually haven't spoken about this at all. We just needed to do a music video and needed a space and did not have one.
Yeah.
We recorded. So the way Wilt came out was we had 5 songs that we put out as its own EP, got signed to Smart Punk, added 3 more songs onto it, and then put that out on vinyl. We recorded those 3 songs at Smart Punk headquarters in Orlando, and when we recorded those 3 songs, they had a big empty warehouse space, and I was like, this will be perfect. We can use it however we want. I hadn't been there for a while, so I asked, hey, can we use this space? And they're like, I guess so. We show up, it is filled with shit.
Yeah.
It is so full. There is a recording studio in there that is immaculate, but we weren't going to film the music video in the studio. And we were like, fuck, like, what do we do? Like, the video is today. We have to figure this out. so we were sitting out back behind it's in a warehouse complex. Mm-hmm. We were sitting out back in that strip of grass behind the warehouse complex, and we saw that there's like almost this like power plant type setup like on the other side of the fence. And I was like, this looks so cool. Like, let's just do it here and figure it out. You know, a lot of the stuff on the mood board for the video was from I forget the turnstile video, but there's a turnstile video on the new record where everything is like very, very wide and very, very tight. Yeah. And a lot of the shots are super architectural. Mm-hmm. And then the This Is Why video by Paramore is also that same way. And the singer from Turnstile actually directed that video. Yeah. Wow. Which I thought was wild. I thought that was so sick. I didn't even realize that they did that. But so I was like, let's just do really, really wide shots and really, really tight shots here. And we did like grab some props that morning. I went to an antique store. I bought some old photographs. I like picked up that hourglass a little bit before. And our whole thing on the previous record was like the love letter with like the heart sticker and the envelope or whatever. Kind of just like introducing new motifs and whatnot, and like burning the old ones. Like it's the metaphor. It's quite literal. Like we're like moving on to the next thing. And yeah, we just kind of made a video where we played and the shots were interesting and unique, and we kind of wanted the song to shine, and then just a bunch of stuff started happening. Like, for example, at the beginning of the video, I'm kind of just like motioning and my eyes are closed, I think, in that shot, and a car goes by like while I'm doing it. And it was like perfectly timed. And when I did it and I saw the playback, I was like, well, that's not making it in. And then I saw the video and I was like, oh, that's kind of fire.
No, like, it might be making it in, actually.
Yeah, it just like happens for no reason. But it's really just supposed to be a fun video with cool shots, and it's kind of just like sentimental to us because we made songs in that space, and yeah, that's really it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the days of like big budget music videos are obviously over. So I always look at like I find it really interesting when a band what a band can do with a like $0 budget or like a really small budget and what they can make with it. And so I was just really taken with like that video as like, it is so simple and there is just like a little bit to it. But I didn't even make the connection between that Turnstile video, but I'm like, oh my God, yeah, it has that same vibe to it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, this just aesthetically is like really pleasing to me.
What's interesting about like the whole music video thing is if you go back and you watch the music videos for Wilt, those are crazy and like do have this wild budget. And they became such an important part of our band that like we felt like we had to do music videos. Mm-hmm. But when we came back into this record, we knew that we had to put together some content. We were like, well, the budget's not really there the way it used to be. Mm-hmm. And we have to kind of make decisions and pull strings and pay for some things out of pocket and do what we got to do. But because like the actual idea of a music video was so important to us, we were able to like put meaning into it and make it kind of like our own thing. And like, it still feels just as important. It's just cheaper and more fun.
Yeah.
I don't know, just to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. That's kind of like the whole mood for like this whole album cycle. It's like throwing stuff at the wall and whatever happens, and we'll have fun doing it. And it usually turns out pretty okay.
Yeah.
We're going to throw spaghetti at the wall that you guys are going to go on a tour eventually for this upcoming album.
Why was it spaghetti?
Because it's just the thing that they always say. Like, for some reason, you just get mad that it's not good spaghetti. Maybe you just like throw it. Start to let it stick.
I don't
know.
I guess it's spaghetti now. We're throwing spaghetti.
Don't they say if you throw a noodle at the wall and it sticks, it means it's done?
It's like al dente. Yeah. Okay. I think it is. Yeah.
All right. I'll take it.
Yeah, that works.
I'm just imagining sauce getting everywhere. I'm just like,
you know what? That's what I imagine too. Whenever I feel like I'm brainstorming something, I feel like there's somebody just putting their hand
on their entire plate.
And they're just like
sauce in the wall. I'll let you ask your actual question now. I'm sorry for bringing up spaghetti sauce.
Wow. Thank you. But will you guys be heading on any tours to support this album release? Or
we have
thinking
some
about
stuff and we have some stuff in the works right now. We got a little bit behind the eight ball on that. Like I said, I'm a dad. The guys have a lot of stuff going on. Gabe actually lives in Las Vegas, which is like a crazy side quest that he's on right now.
Wow, yeah.
It's like that's a whole other. That was not on my 2023 2022 bingo card, but he moved to Vegas and he's loving it and he's living it up there, which makes things very interesting. I had a really cool phone call today about some stuff that might happen that I can't really talk about. But we are planning shows. Maybe not like super big, long, 100+ days of touring stretches. But we definitely have some stuff cooking for the summer and a really cool release show that we're going to announce. Actually, this will be out and the show will have been announced. But we have a really cool release show planned and some cool stuff around that. And yeah, so there's not a tour that's announced or fully lined up right now, but it's being fleshed out as we speak.
Hell yeah.
There we go.
And it'll come to Chicago, I'm hoping.
Yeah, it'll. Don't worry.
Don't worry, Brian.
We're coming. we'll be there.
This is like, we always will ask, like, so what are your tour plans? And really, just selfishly, Chicago. Chicago.
Are you guys are y'all in Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We have a weird relationship with Chicago because we've always pulled there. We always do well. It's one of our top Spotify cities. We have never truly had a proper Chicago show. There was one show that we played at Evolution Music,
yeah,
music store.
Oh, yeah.
It was an in-store acoustic performance thing right when the first record came out. That was super cool, but it was just a guitar and a vocal.
Yeah.
And that's it. We did another one where it was a house show. It was in an apartment.
Yeah.
It was great.
Sounds
it was like
right.
100 people in an apartment. And we got to play like maybe 2 or 3 songs before the cops showed up.
Yeah.
It was like right up the street from the Chicago Music Exchange. Loden was super sketchy. And it was awesome. Like the energy was super cool. But we just have never, ever had luck in Chicago for whatever reason, booking a proper venue. So even if it takes like a fly out, because we can book one day in Chicago, like it just needs to happen.
Yeah.
Because like I think Chicago deserves a proper show.
I agree.
Yeah.
You let us know if you need any help, by the way, just in case.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Yeah, we know a good amount of venue people.
Yeah, we can make it happen.
Heck yeah.
We
were actually that was a part of the phone call today. So hopefully Chicago 2024.
We can bully people. We can do that.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, let's do it.
If you need
let's
us
do
to
it. I'm down.
make any calls.
Yeah.
I feel like one of them at least would be like a Facebook Messenger, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
With the way some of them communicate with me, at least
true.
like Facebook Messenger, I'm like, homie.
Yeah.
I'm begging
And
you.
there's so many homies up there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that we would love to like. You guys familiar with the project used to be called Safe Bet? Now it's called New Age.
Oh my god, I love Safe Bet.
Oh, dude, Gino. We did 2 weeks with Gino for the Wilt album release tour, and I was kind of familiar with the music when we first started, and it was just one of those things where it was just him and the guitar. That's it. But I like fell in love with his set, and I watched him every single night. And I asked him questions about the chords he was using, and just like he's just true like he's like a tortured genius. Like he's
I know
so
he's one of the
gifted.
artists I wish I saw when during like that Chicago like indie and like DIY, but I just never caught him at a show. But I love his music so much.
And it's just so thoughtful. And I remember right before he started recording that Blue EP. Mm-hmm. It was on the tour with us, I think. I was talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just like going to start writing a lot of stuff about my mental health, and less about like girls and relationships and all this stuff." Like he was growing up, you know. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "That's cool, man." And I remember when I heard it for the first time, I like cried because I was so like when someone says I'm going to start writing music about my mental health, you're like, oh, cool. Like everybody struggles. Like it's good that you're doing that. And like people should hear that story, and like maybe it'll make someone feel empowered to do something, or someone will feel a connection, or whatever the case is. I did not know the depths that he was going to go to, and the chords, like literally and figuratively, that he was going to strike with me. And he just has this like beautiful way of expressing sadness, and it's almost crushing that he has such a beautiful gift for songwriting. And it's used to express this just like low thing. But his music is so good that it makes you happy because it's so good, but it's so sad because you hear what he's talking about and you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna bawl. Like, I guess that's emo, you know.
Yeah.
But like hearing his new project is just like so wonderful, and it's so good to know that he's still doing it, and seeing that he did that show. I think it was with Hot Mulligan, that big show that they just did, that festival or whatever. Like that was their first show out.
At
it was
Aragon?
just so wonderful. I think so. I'm not sure exactly
we
where it
were
was. But I
there.
just
It might
remember
have. Maybe it was one of the newer like acts.
it was almost like a festival, I think, and I think Hot Mulligan headlined, if I'm not mistaken. It was like a Christmas type deal.
Oh, I think that might have been in Michigan.
Okay, Michigan, yeah.
Because they did have a holiday show in Michigan.
Yeah. But I could talk about that project all day because I just think he's so talented. But yes, that was a really cool period of time. That's when we were popping into Chicago, when like Safe Bet, Kayak Jones was a big one for me. Home Safe was starting to pop off. Of course, like Knuckle Puck, Real Friends. It just seemed like Chicago was producing all these like powerhouse, and even like the smaller band, like I really like Tiny Kingdoms. I think they're super, super cool. Chicago's awesome, and we will be there. I just love it. It's wonderful.
It is
so much talent.
It's a great spot for music. There's a lot of bands, and they're all good. So the one thing about Chicago, we love talking about Chicago. We love Chicago. If you're like, oh, it's from Chicago, we're like, cool, we like it. So that's our
yeah, dude. I just love hanging out. And there was the day of the Evolution Music Show. It was Cinco de Mayo in Chicago.
Oh,
which,
shit.
like, why is Chicago gray in May, and why is it raining? Change it, like make it different.
Change it. I mean, like get the weather machine in the sky going.
Yeah,
Come
like,
on.
It was so weird. But we got to just like bar hop during. I don't even remember where we slept that night, but we got to bar hop in Chicago during Cinco de Mayo. And it was just, I don't know, it's just like a cool place, and it seems like the city's super alive. There's a bunch of like really rich cultures and like a bunch of diversity there, and it just feels cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Those are nice words.
It is very cool here.
We'll give you a chance here to plug yourself and the band and everything. Where can people find you on the internet? Where can people listen to and watch the videos and all that good stuff? Yeah.
Heck yeah. So the band is Hungover. The record is When It Touches the Heart, Everything Resolves. Is out February 23rd on Smart Punk Records. It will be available everywhere that you stream music, and it will also be on vinyl through Smart Punk's website. All our socials are at Hungover Band on everything. The music videos are on Smart Punk's YouTube channel. And you could also see me being really silly, goofy, weird on TikTok and Instagram.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for coming on the pod. This was absolutely
Thank you guys
amazing.
for having me.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, we love the music. We love the band. So we can't wait to see you when you come through Chicago. And we're excited for the release of this record for everybody else who hasn't heard it. So make sure to support Hungover when the record comes out. Pick up a vinyl if you can, because vinyl is always good to add to your collection, and it helps the band, I'm assuming, more than just listening to it on Spotify. So you know, make sure you pick up that physical copy.
And the sleeve glows in the dark.
There you go.
Oh, that's cool.
So put it in your room, put it on the wall, and then turn the lights off and go, I'm still thinking about that.
That's actually, no, you'll put it on your ceiling like you do the little like stars and moons instead. You just have the glow in the dark Hungover vinyl watching you while you sleep.
There you go.
Sick. Well, yeah, check it out. And once again, Mark, Hungover, thank you for being on the pod tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Emo Social Club. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a comment, rate, and follow on your favorite streaming platform.
To hear the full unedited interview with Hungover, head over to our Patreon and subscribe. You'll also get exclusive behind the scenes and extra content.
From all of us here at the Emo Social Club, I'm Brian.
And I'm Lizzie.
We'll see you next week. Bye!